Bernice McDonald, welcome to the Apollo Papyrus podcast.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here, Aaron.
Feel free to introduce yourself to our listeners.
Yes, for sure. I'm Bernice McDonald, and I like to call myself a tiny brave step strategy specialist. And I'm also an author. I am currently writing the Little Books of Courage series. I live in Alberta, Canada. I'm married to my knight in shining armor, and we share two daughters and a stepdaughter who have given us many wonderful grandchildren who bless our lives every day. So I work with midlife women, moving them from a place of not enough to brave enough. And that's based on something that Tony Robbins said several years ago, a quote of his that really changed my life. He said, and this applies to everyone with skin on, he says, that our two greatest fears are that we're not enough. And if we're not enough, then we won't be loved. So I have spent my whole life learning to set aside the idea that I'm not enough and learning to accept the fact that I'm brave enough to do just about anything I set my mind to. So that's basically who I am.
The first book in your Little Books of Courage series is titled Brave Enough to Be Myself. Without spoiling too much about Brave Enough to Be Myself, what is that book about?
Well, it's actually, as I said, my life journey. I chose to write that one first in my series because it's really what I call my heart on paper. I have always been a people pleaser, trying to fit in with people, trying to be loved by conforming to what they wanted and what they needed. So I think the turning point came when I was in a long time relationship. And I stood up to somebody in that relationship and I said, "You don't get to speak to me like that anymore." I was terrified, but it just woke something up in me. I like to say that it woke my courage up in that moment. And so from that time on, what I learned was that if we want to stand up to fear and to do things that scare us, courage only kicks in when we actually take a step forward. So that book, Brave Enough to Be Myself, is all about learning to be okay, to be who you are, to not put yourself down, but instead to go searching for all the special things that are inside you, the things that actually add up to making you the person to live your purpose. Because I believe that every one of us has something very special to give in this life to change either our small worlds that we live in or the whole world. It just depends what that thing is. So I enjoyed writing that book. It's a very small book, lots of white space, lots of heart exercises. It's really easy to read, but I wanted it to be that way because I think we live in a society where people don't take a lot of time to consume the really heavy, dense books. So all of my series are going to be very easy books to consume, but really powerful, I'm hoping, life-changing, transformational.
There are quite a few concepts you've introduced in your writing, and in Brave Enough to Be Myself, you introduced the concept of tiny brave steps.
Yes.
Why are these small actions so powerful for women going through major life transitions?
Well, it doesn't apply just to women, but it does apply. It applies to everyone, right? But I specifically speak to women who are facing all those transitions in midlife. And what I've learned is that, as I said, courage only kicks in. Like, a lot of times we kind of stand at the edge of something that's really frightening us, something that we know fear is holding us back from doing. Many of us, and this is the sad thing about life, many of us neglect to do things our entire lives because we're afraid and fear stops us in our tracks. So, what I'm trying to do is create a movement of courage, a movement for women who are tentative, who are wanting to do something greater, to move beyond who they are, who feel, as we often do in midlife, that something is missing, that there's something more to life. So, what I'm doing is encouraging them to just try one tiny brave step. Just put your toe over the line, just test the water, just, one little step to change your mindset, one little step to, write a sentence or call somebody or write the first little part of a text, something, research one little thing in the project or the book that you want to write. Just do one little thing, and one little thing builds on another thing, builds on another thing. And before you know it, you are moving towards that thing that you really want to do or become in your life.
Another concept of yours is strange jewels. What are strange jewels, and how can women identify these unique qualities in themselves that they might have been taught to hide?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked me about that, Aaron, because this is the heart of the person. Each of us, I believe, now we're going into a little bit of philosophy here, but I believe each of us are individuals who are born into this life onto this path, right? And when we're born, we enter the path. When we die, we leave the path. But in between are all these things that happen and all these things that we walk through, all the chapters in life, all the decades. And I believe that every one of those incidents that happen are for a purpose rather than thinking, because sometimes we think, oh man, God is out to get me because all these awful things are always happening to me. But the question is, what if these things are actually happening to bring out something very special in you, to reveal to you that you have something, you have qualities inside you that are very special and very strong. You might think that they're just natural, that everybody has them because they are so natural to you, but really they're not. They are things that only you can do in your own special way. Now, the reason they're called strange jewels, and this was out of the book written, it was called oh man, the author has gone out of my mind, but she planted the seed for me and she called them strange jewels. And she wrote a book on creativity. And that book, she said, we are so afraid to actually be creative, to actually let those gifts shine because we're so afraid that somebody's going to put us down. And what has happened to a lot of us is that somebody did put us down for doing certain things in over that path of life that we've walked. And so we came to the conclusion that those are not good things. They're kind of weird things about us or things that we should hide. Maybe, our sense of humor is a little bit off the wall, or maybe, we were introverted and quiet, and or maybe we're too vibrant in life, and people have told us to settle down. When we think of it, those things actually can be the very things, the gifts that we've been given to make something happen in the world, to bring change, to cheer other people up, to support other people, to have empathy, all of those things. We might think they're strange, but they're actually strange jewels that we can use to accomplish the things that we're meant to do.
Another concept of yours is the hot air balloon perspective. How can this mental shift help women who feel stuck in patterns of self-doubt?
Well, a lot of times when we're right in the middle of something, we can't see it, right? We're we get so caught up in the whole drama, the whole idea of being lost in the center of a tornado or in a storm or just, down in a deep valley. Many years ago, when I went through a divorce and I was in between my divorce and when I met my knight in shining armor, and I was in the midst of dating again, which was a very scary prospect. I did, a lot of times, and this is something midlife women often face, is that one relationship ends, but they don't want to be alone for the rest of their life. So they're facing this scary idea of finding another partner. And so I was in the midst of doing that, and I was studying with a coach, her material. Her name was Rory Ray, and one thing she did, I was stuck on this concept that, oh, there's no good men left out there. I'm too old to find love, and I will never find somebody. I'd been dating some guys, and it just, they weren't my type. And I thought, I'm never going to find anybody. So what she said to do was to pretend that you climb into a hot air balloon and you just rise up, up above your path, and you look down. And what do you see? You see there are many good men out there who are looking for someone just like you. Now, you wouldn't see that from the ground, but you can see that when you change your perspective and rise up above your path. That really helped me when I began to grasp that concept. And so I started to apply that to all kinds of things. And now in my work and in my books, I encourage women to, when they're stuck, when they can't see the options and when they can't see their brilliance, they can't see tiny brave they can't see any steps and they can't see their strange jewels. Rise up in your hot air balloon, look back from where you came. Look at all the decades and all the stuff that you went through, all the things that you have lived through, and look at how you have grown into the person that you are. Look at all the strengths that have been developed. Look at how many good things happened. Look at the people who helped you. Look at how you were at a certain crossroads and all of a sudden it was just revealed to you which way you should go. You read something or somebody came along and gave you a good piece of advice. And so you knew which road to take on that crossroads. That's the advantage of rising up above your situation and looking down and sizing up where you've been. The other side of that is also to look forward into your future. If you are in your hot air balloon, you can go up there and you can look and you can see the path. You can just imagine the road disappearing off into the fog, maybe because you can't see very far ahead, but you can see where you'd like to go. You can also visualize if you take this path where you could end up, if you take that path where you could end up, and that helps you to make a decision as well. Plus, it doesn't hurt that being up in the hot air balloon, it's very quiet. It's very peaceful. You can just settle down and kind of be by yourself there to give your thoughts some space or to journal or to think. So that's the beauty of the hot air balloon ride.
I'm going to pivot back to your books for the next few questions. Brave Enough to Be Myself is the first book in what will be your Little Books of Courage series. Without spoiling too much about the books in the remainder of the series, what will they be about?
Well, my next one is almost ready to be published. It's called, and they all start with the title Brave Enough To. So this one is Brave Enough to Let Go, which is learning to breathe again when life lets you down. So that book is all about how to embrace the whole idea of not hanging on and trying to control your life, not being angry about how things have turned out. When you thought it was going to be one way and your life went totally a different direction, how to let go of that idea and just let life happen. Let it be a surprise. that's another thing I learned while I was dating. I would go out with somebody, and what my dating coach taught me was, make a tight fist as if you're hanging on to how this date needs to go and how it needs to turn out. But let go, open your hands. And when you open your hands, there's such a sense of relief. And the idea is don't hang on to what you can't control. Just let it go and let it happen. So that's that book. Then after that, the next book is called Brave Enough to Stop People Pleasing, which is all about how, again, getting back to the idea of being yourself, but being yourself with confidence, being yourself in a way so that you can stop letting what others think dictate what you do. So stop people pleasing. And then the one after that is brave enough to fall in love again, or I'm not exactly sure of that title, but that's what that one will be. And the rest are all following in that kind of a thought. Everyone is like a brick wall that comes in our way, that can fall across our paths and keep us from going forward, keep us from actually having the courage to move ahead in our lives. If we crash through, go around, go under those brick walls and take this tiny brave steps to gain some courage to move forward in our life, wow, the sky's the limit. That's what gives you freedom. That's what helps you to move ahead in your life and helps your dreams to come true in ways that surprise you.
In Brave Enough to Be Myself, you share some powerful personal stories. Which was the hardest to write about, and why was it important for you to include it?
I think the hardest to write about was the one about my divorce because that was a very difficult time. It was a time when life did fall apart for me. I never expected to end up in that place. I was married for 24 years and I was married to a good man, but we just were not a fit. And talking about that's difficult because for one thing, he's still around and I did not want, I have no desire at all to offend him or to put him in a bad light. But truth be told, that's part of the story. It's part of the tapestry that has made me me today. And it was important to be able to tell that story because so many of us go through it, and so many of us go through equally hard things, some even harder things. And so we need to talk about those things in order to just accept who we are, to accept that even in the middle of hard things, we can be brave and we can take what we're learning within that situation and bring who we are into that situation. So we don't have to sacrifice ourselves. We don't have to stop being ourselves. We can just be who we are. And that's one of the most important things to learn. The thing that will bring you peace is to absolutely learn who you are and bring that to the table. What do you have when you walk in the room, what do you bring? When you come to the table, what do you bring? And to embrace that part of you. I have a 4-step process that I take women through and the second step is to embrace who you are. The third step is to stand up for you so that the fourth step, you can make that impact. And the first step is wake up your courage. So all of that together, all of my books take women through that 4-step process in learning to be free and live that one part of their lives.
Is Brave Enough to Be Myself independently, traditionally, or hybrid published? And will the other books in the series that it's a part of be published in the same manner?
I self-publish. The books are under 20,000 words. They're short and they're easily consumable. And I want the series to be easily accessible and available to all women all the time. And they support the other coaching programs that I have. They are the foundation that my other programs stand on. And it's just one aspect of my business that women embrace or find or use in order to become all that they can be, going from not enough to brave enough.
One final question. You've created an artificial intelligence powered tiny brave steps generator, and I'll include a link to it in the text description of the podcast episode once it's uploaded. How does this AI powered online generator work?
Well, again, thank you for asking me about that because I am so proud of it. It is powered by Chat GPT, but it is specifically full of my own coaching concepts. So you can go to tinybravesteps.com. You can sign up for it, and it's absolutely free. And you are taken to the Tiny Brave Steps generator, which is like a Chat GPT. And there you can enter any challenge that you're having in your life, be it personal or business, leadership, and it will walk you through step by step, helping you to get to the bottom of that issue, helping you to look at your fears, helping you to understand your own feelings about that, helping you to sort out your thoughts about that. And then in the end, as it leads you through that conversation, it will give you 3 small steps to get you unstuck. So usually the first one is like something you can do in 90 seconds. It might be something like just stop and breathe for a moment and let yourself feel your heart beating and know who you are as a person. And then the second step and the third step are both steps you can do in like 5 minutes. Because as I said, when you take steps, that's when your courage shows up. So it's all related to the conversation. And then in the end, it gives you an idea for something you can do every day to reinforce what it is the steps that it gave you. And it can also continue on the conversation if you need to. So I call it's like having a coach in your pocket. You can go there anytime, 24/7, and just get some help if you're feeling unsettled or you're not sure what to do next.
Bernice, thank you for appearing on the Apollo Papyrus podcast. You were a wonderful guest to interview.
Well, thank you, Aaron. I really appreciate you having me and being able to talk about all these things about courage. It's kind of my passion topic, as you can tell.
This podcast episode is intended for the private listening of our audience. Any reuse or retransmission of this podcast episode without the express written consent of the podcast host is prohibited except under fair use guidelines. Royalty-free music and sound effects obtained from https://www.zapsplat.com.